Today, the channel is filled with color. I've been digging through the channel and I've found 3 vibrant, delicious recipes with bold colors. 3 times. And I've found the 3 most vibrant and refreshing recipes: lemon, strawberry. In their own ways, all 3 are amazing. Starting with this lemon one, which is truly wonderful. Guys, it's delicious. Hello, Golosolandia. Today we're bringing you a spectacular dessert that you can make with just 4 ingredients. No oven, no eggs, no gelatin, but it's delicious. In this case, I'm going to make it with lemon. You could also make it perfectly with lime, green lemon, or orange. Or with tangerine, it also turns out great. I'm going to use 3 lemons, although this is really up to your taste. You can use 4, you can use 2, whatever you prefer, and let's make the most of it. Both the peel or zest and the juice. First, in a large bowl, I'm going to zest the lemons. Let's remove the yellow part carefully so that we only scrape off the yellow part and leave the white part out, because the white part is always a bit bitter. Once 1 lemon is zested, do the same with 2 more lemons and put all the zest in this bowl. Once we have it, we add a small can of condensed milk, pour it in, which is about 400 milliliters or 2 cups. We add all of it, and now we're going to add the lemon juice. So we'll squeeze the lemons. You can simply crush them by poking them with a fork, being careful to set aside the seeds, or use one of these gadgets. Since I have it, I'll use it, and that way I get the juice out very easily and very quickly. Don't forget to mix that condensed milk very well with the lemon zest, but we'll save the juice for later. Now, we take a pot and add 1.5 liters of milk, which is 7.5 cups. First, I have half a liter here, and the other liter I'm pouring straight from the carton. Everything goes in. Here we're going to add 150 grams of cornstarch, which is about 1 cup, and a quarter. What we do is add it and stir it around, taking advantage of the milk being warm or cold, so it dissolves easily. Once you notice that the cornstarch is completely dissolved, add the condensed milk and zest mixture that we had here ready. You just have to add it and mix it really well. No complications. And once you add this mixture, you keep stirring it, so it dissolves. And well, 1, 2, 3, 5 stirs, and on the stove, because we're gonna put it here on medium heat and keep stirring and stirring until it gets a creamy texture. At first, it seems like nothing is happening, but as soon as the milk heats up, a cream starts to form quickly. So the advice is to always keep stirring and stay alert. As soon as it gets creamy, it's time to add that lemon juice we set aside, which will give the mixture a really great flavor. What you just saw is totally optional. You can add a few drops of yellow food coloring to give it a fresher look. But I'm telling you, you can totally skip this step. It's purely for looks and nothing else. Now then, this is already warm, and as you can see here, the texture is really creamy. Really creamy. Time to add the lemon juice. And it's very, very important that when you add it, you stir and mix like this. Quickly, so that it blends together, comes together. We get all the flavor, but we don't lose any of the texture. It turns out smooth, creamy, and absorbs all the flavor. I've used the juice of 3 lemons, but you can add as much as you want, because some people enjoy a really strong flavor. Now we take a 20-centimeter diameter mold, which, as you can see, I've lined with parchment paper to make unmolding easier. We pour in the cream. Just pour it in, and now you just have to wait a little bit. I recommend tapping the mold a few times so that if there are any bubbles inside, they come up and disappear. And once it's cooled down or chilled, we can put it in the fridge or refrigerator. I recommend keeping it there for at least 4 hours to make sure it's firm and the flavors come together. Now, we run a knife between the paper and the mold to make sure there are no problems and it doesn't break when we take it out. We put the serving plate on top, and voila. Just flip it over, there's no mystery to it. We carefully remove the mold. And here is this lemon wonder that we just prepared without using the oven and without any complications. If you want to give it a decorative touch, you can add some lines, for example, of caramel on top, like I'm doing. That's it. To each their own taste, and right before serving, to give it the final touch. Look, I'm using a lemon peel to decorate even more and give it a little touch, like adding some height. And now enjoy the most important part of dessert. It's the inside, and look. Let's see if I can get it. This looks amazing. Ultra creamy, ultra refreshing, and ultra easy to make. For any dessert you want to cut that has a creamy texture like this, I recommend using a knife that's slightly moistened with water. That way, it won't stick, and it cuts perfectly. It's the same thing, you see. I know this is totally fresh, but we're changing the color. And totally creamy. Hey, Sweet Tooths, let's start the recipe. The first thing I'll do is grab a mold, container, tray, wherever you want to prepare the dessert, of course. And what I do is place it, a little drop of oil inside, and with the help of a pastry brush, or if you don't have one, a paper towel, spread the oil really well, both on the bottom and the sides, so it's all coated. As you can see, I do it with a very thin layer, just so it's lightly coated, and then it will be easier to unmold later. Now we take 250 grams, or 8 strawberries, 8 fairly large strawberries, and we put them in the blender jar or pitcher. We add 80 grams or half a cup of sugar and blend it really well until we have a smooth puree. So, whether you use a blender, a food processor, or a hand blender like I do, what you need to do is blend it well until you have a liquid. Smooth and uniform. So we'll spend a minute on this, but I assure you it's worth it. Then you add the milk, specifically 600 milliliters or 3 cups, and turn the machine on again so it mixes perfectly. And also, super fast, because today's dessert, besides being delicious, is made very quickly and easily. All right, we have everything mixed now. We're gonna pour it through a strainer to remove the seeds that strawberries usually have inside, which can change the texture of desserts a bit. So pour a little over the strainer, and I also move it around to make the most of the strainer's surface. Then I give it a few turns to make sure I get every last drop of flavor, and then all the liquid goes into the pot. I'm gonna add 50 grams, or 2 tablespoons, big heaping tablespoons of cornstarch, and I'm going to mix it really well so it dissolves. And now that we see there are no lumps of cornstarch left, it's ready to go on the stove. Of course, we're gonna put it over medium heat and stir constantly until it starts to heat up. Once it's warm, it will also thicken. It'll get nice and thick. Once it's creamy, that'll be the perfect moment to take it out and pour it into the mold. So now, just a few minutes here, stirring it until it heats up. It takes just a few minutes. At first, since the liquid is cold, you don't notice any change. But as it heats up, you can see the cream starting to get a bit of texture, a bit of thickness, and when it's nice and creamy, it'll be ready. So we can take it off the heat and transfer it to the mold or tray we had prepared. So we pour all this paste, cream, or liquid inside. I've left it here for, well, about 5 or 10 minutes, so the temperature drops a bit. And then I put it in the fridge or refrigerator, of course, so it finishes setting and the flavors come out. And once we have it in the fridge, what I do is come and prepare a little sauce to put on top that'll blow your mind. I'll need strawberries again. And what I'll do is cut them into really small cubes. Let's get to it. We're going to cut the strawberries into cubes less than 1 centimeter on each side. Specifically, I'm using 6 large strawberries, which is about 200 grams. And as I mentioned, I'm calmly cutting them into small cubes, not too big, because I want them to break down a bit. to give more flavor. Now what I do is put 60 grams, or a third of a cup of sugar in a pan. I also add 20 grams, or 1 tablespoon of butter, and I wait for it to dissolve. While I'm doing this, hey, I recommend you give me a like if you're enjoying the video. It helps me a lot, so you can give me that. And also, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with the latest news. Look, after a little while, just a few minutes, you can see how this is turning out. You can notice that it's starting to get a caramel color on the bottom. So I recommend at this point that you start stirring it. That way, it mixes and dissolves completely. At that point, once the color is even, you add the strawberry. And this is where the real magic happens. You put all these little strawberry cubes on the pan and mix them really well. At first, it hardens a bit because the strawberry is cold, and it's easy for the caramel to crystallize a little. But there's no problem because we're gonna keep cooking. The strawberry will release juice, everything will mix together, and in the end, we'll have a liquid like the one you see on the screen. The caramel. It is dissolved, and little by little, it's cooking into a kind of sensational strawberry jam or syrup. A creamy, creamy strawberry caramel. When it has a thick texture, we take it off the heat. And now what I do is take the dessert we had set aside out of the fridge or refrigerator. And I'm gonna put this real strawberry wonder we just made on top. Oh, look at that shine! Oh my goodness! What a delicious thing! I spread it a bit, so it forms an even layer. And now, I'm going to put all of this in the fridge or refrigerator until the dessert is perfect. I recommend at least 4 hours, so the flavors come together and the texture is perfect. But if you want to prepare it a day in advance, it also turns out great. There's no problem at all. So, dessert is ready, and everything is set to enjoy. Look, 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 it looks amazing. Here, I show you the most important thing, which is the same as with people, the inside. And look at the inside of this amazing dessert. And we switch flavors to leave us speechless. Look at that texture, sugar and fruit. But we're gonna make it really good. First, grab a saucepan and put the sugar inside, all of it in. And we're going to add exactly 200 grams. That's also equivalent to 1 cup. We add half a cup of water, which is about 100 milliliters, and we go straight to the stove. Once you have it mixed, but without stirring, we go to the stove. We're gonna leave it on medium heat until we notice that a lot of little bubbles start to appear and it begins to thicken a bit. At that moment, we're going to lower the heat a bit to just below medium, and we'll keep cooking it calmly until we see a little golden color. Just a few gentle touches will be enough to know that we have this syrup at just the right point. While it finishes, which usually takes about 20 minutes in total, what I do is peel the fruit I'm going to use, in this case, the tangerines, because I'm gonna make tangerines and strawberries. So, with a small knife, we gently cut the skin and pull it off, so we don't break the body of the tangerine. I want it whole. The bottom part, even with that right there. The little hole, only on the top. On the other hand, we take the strawberry and remove the stem just by twisting it a little bit. We want it to stop at that little point, which we are going to smooth out with a small knife. We will do the same operation with all the strawberries we want to use. We twist, we remove those little leaves, and we cut the stem flush, another one for the plate. A very important detail if you use this type of fruit is to wash it really well. Make sure it's clean and shiny. That way, it'll look nicer, because it'll have that shine when we put that layer of caramel on it. And we're going to use some simple tools. For example, some chopsticks like the ones you get with Chinese food. You just stick it through the water, little hole at the top, and you twist it a bit. That way, the mandarin holds perfectly. Same thing over here. Same thing with this one. We remove the top part, insert and twist. great trick for mandarins. However, strawberries are even easier. Just use one of these skewer sticks. We stick it right through the center so it holds really well. Come on, let's do it again. And a skewer for each of our strawberries. We're almost done with this. I already have the fruit ready. The caramel is almost done. Caramel, syrup, or whatever, call it what you want. And I'm gonna use a piece of styrofoam. Honestly, you could use cardboard. Anything silly will work. Because once I caramelize the fruit, I stick it in here. It stays upright to dry. And I don't have any problem. A trick is to use anything cheap you can find. Hey, an empty milk carton. Anything you can stick them into. That'll work. After about 20 minutes, it also depends a bit on the pot. It will have this color, kind of yellowish. You can check that it's ready by dropping it into a little cup of cold water. See? Some little drops have formed. Instantly, that's what we're looking for. You can also dip the spoon in cold water, and you'll notice if it caramelizes instantly. If just by dipping it in a little bit of water, you get a layer, and that layer isn't sticky but rather quite hard, it means we've got it at the exact point. See? That's what we're looking for. We have the caramel. At first glance, we already knew it was ready, but now we've confirmed it. So we can take it off the heat. Look, 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 look. Let's see if you can see the spoon well. Yes. Well, you get the idea. I run my finger over it, and it doesn't stick. Well, like I said, we take it off the heat. Now to coat the fruit, I'll begin with a small strawberry. Like this. I tilt the pan a bit so it has more depth. And over the wonderful liquid, I turn the fruit, again and again. So I get a thin, even layer. This way, the excess caramel comes off. The more you turn it, the less caramel you have left, the thinner the layer will be. So you can turn it as many times as you want. Once you think it's just right, you just take it and place it on a piece of cardboard, on a piece of styrofoam like I do, or anything else that lets you keep it upright. And so it can dry undisturbed. The tangerines, pretty much the same thing. Spread the caramel well and turn to remove the excess. The more times you turn it, the more caramel will fall off, and you'll be left with a thinner layer. So if you like it with a super thin layer, turn it a lot. And if you want a nice thick layer, turn it less. It's up to each person's taste. Look how shiny and appetizing it is. It's hard to believe that you can make things so beautiful and so appetizing with so little effort. And when it comes to delicious things, sometimes we get a lot of surprises. I keep preparing all the fruits here, one after another, until I finish this shiny and wonderful liquid. Even if it gets a bit of a yellow tint when you make it, which is what we're looking for, once you spread it on the fruit, you can't tell, and it ends up completely 100% transparent. All right, one more. I'm almost done. In the end, you'll have a piece of styrofoam or a box with all these little sticks poked in. And it looks amazing. Wow, don't tell me you don't want some. Let me show you one up close so you can see how shiny it is. Later, I stick it in here and I let them finish hardening. It takes a few minutes. And look, listen to the sound. And you can really tell they're completely glassy. A fantastic product. You can see how it breaks.
Easy, refreshing texture. It has everything.
But even so,
I think it's worth comparing for the last one, which in my case is my favorite. Look at that hint, it looks amazing. I already told you this one was my favorite. Maybe you preferred the strawberry one or the one starting with lemon. Let me know in the comments.
but don't.
I started to fall out of love. Hey, what about you? Are you like me? It depends on the time of day. Sometimes I want something citrusy, other times something sweeter. Am I the only one who already feels like having something citrusy?
More in the morning. No,